Hi, this is a tutorial to help you with your T-Box assignment. The first thing I'd like to remind you to do is to double check your assignment, make sure that you've read through the steps, and also taken a look at the checklist of required information. There are quite a few things that need to fit on your T-Box, and the size of the T-Box is based on a box that I acquired in Australia several years ago, but it has plenty of little square areas where you are going to be including information, imagery, and text. You will be given a template that you can download in your shared folder, and it's going to have clearly marked sides, top, bottom, and you can also look at this original T-box to base your design on. So all of that information is available on the website. I'm going to close that and show you how I've decided to get started on mine. So my project is going to be based on mint tea. So I've done a few things before I even start the tea box. The first thing I did was I started creating some illustrations that I wanted to use on my tea box. Mine's going to be called Cool Mint, and I'm focusing on mint tea. So I wanted some sort of stylized graphics. I made this leaf in Illustrator, really simple method of just using an oval tool and then choosing your Convert Anchor Point tool to create a pointed edge on each side. So you can spend some time sort of doodling around, and please do not feel like you have to do mint tea. That's just what I've selected for my design. But then I wanted to just kind of customize each of these leaves. So I have a few that I can start working with. Here's another mint leaf. This is just sort of doubled. And again, these are very abstract and stylized. Now, you can also find things online. Um, this is a practice project, so I'm not expecting that every single detail will be created from scratch. But if you do go online to work with anything, remember that you need to be able to adjust and edit what you find online and make sure it's a workable document. So either way is fine. This is a mint graphic that I just Googled and found to use as well. Notice that I'm going to need to delete the white space around it, Command D to deselect, and then I can start using this as well. So I'm going to pull this over to my tea box. Notice right now I just have the tea box on its own layer all alone. And I may want to duplicate that entire template so there's a backup copy. And then notice I have a graphic right here. Now, if Photoshop is not working for you, remember always, if you have your selection tool, your move tool clicked on, you need to have auto select and show transform controls, or else it can be really difficult to work with Photoshop. So I'm going to zoom in quite a bit here. I'm just going to focus on my main graphic. You guys have done packaging designs before when you did your candy box and graphic design 1. So I'm not going to give you every detail. This is more about you to kind of brush up on your packaging design skills. So I wanted to do sort of this symmetrical design here. So I've got 2 leaves going. I'm going to go back to my Illustrator document, and I'm going to select this piece I've made, and I'm just going to drag it straight on. It's going to probably come over pretty big. And notice if you're going Illustrator to Photoshop, it's going to come out as a Vector Smart object. If you hit return, it should be editable, just like anything else, but you'll notice there's a little black icon in that layer, which you're going to want to rasterize eventually. I'm going to put this right in the center here between those leaves. And I'm going to change this by control clicking or right clicking, and I just rasterize layer. So now it'll be editable the same way. Okay, so I wanted to add one more of my leaves from Illustrator, and then I'm going to start working with text. And again, I'm not going to do the entire demonstration. I find that if I do too long of a demonstration, people either tend to get bored or copy exactly what I do. So I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet here. Whoops. So I grabbed the wrong layer. So I have 2 layers selected. So I want to make sure that your Photoshop situation is functioning properly. Ask for help if you need it. Ask a friend, ask a neighbor, Google it, whatever you can do to get through the assignment. So what I'm doing here is I'm transforming it to flip horizontal. So I just have a mirror image. Okay, so I've just kind of been filling the space. Now a lot of people wonder, wait a second, how can I fill the whole background with a color? Which is why I have 2 copies here. And I usually just decide on, especially if they're shapes that are simple like a square, I just select that area. So I didn't quite get a good selection there. Use your square selection tool, select an area, and then you can use your paint bucket fill or your gradient fill, or any other method really to fill in the space. So I'm going to do a soft gradient here, and I'm going to just do sort of green to green, sort of a minty green to another minty green, just to get a nice background color. Let's see here. I'm going to go a little richer. Let's get a little bit of a change here. Now I have that selected up top, and I can drag it right through. I'm going to go straight down with my shift key down. So now I've got green to green. Now, as you can see, it's really hard to see my leaves I've put on there. So I'm going to take that layer down in opacity. It's kind of a simple way to slightly modify it, but not too much. And then I'm going to go Command D to deselect. Okay, so I have a pretty good start here. Again, notice my layers. I have 2 smart objects, which means they're vector, and I can control click and rasterize them if I want them to work the same way as my other layers. Do not worry about filling these areas with color. If you really feel inclined to do so, you can use your polygon lasso to make your selections and fill them in, or you can use your paint bucket fill right onto those sections, but those get tucked in a way, so it shouldn't be a major ordeal to fill those, but feel free to fill them in if you'd like to. All right, so I've got a few things going on here. I'm going to start working with text. Again, my T-Box brand is going to be called Cool Mint. So I'm going to just start typing the text. Oops, and I didn't capitalize cool, and I meant to. So I'm going to just do Cool Mint. And I want this to be sort of funky fresh, so I'm keeping it in a novelty font. And I actually wanted it to be white. I just really like the simplicity of the white. And again, when I'm in my T tool, this is where you're going to have all your setting options. This font I downloaded from DaFont. It's called Stars from Our Eyes. And it's sort of a handwritten looking font. If I want to change the color, I could do it here. And then I've got my text layer. If I wanted to do a layer style on it, I could go into layer style, and work on some options right in here. So for instance, bevel and emboss might really make it stand out a little bit. And again, you don't want to do every single one in here just for fun, because sometimes if you do too much, it tends to be a little bit cluttered and not as cool as you were hoping for. So I'm going to hit OK on that. I think it's standing out pretty well. And now I'm feeling like my floral stuff might be a little bit flat, so I'm going to check and see if I like the effect on any of my other layers. So I'm just going to go ahead and find this FX. I'm going to option drag it to that layer and see how it looks. And I do kind of like the little lift it's given, so I'm going to option drag that to all of my layers that include an image. I'm going to even do it on this one. And see, where's this guy? Sometimes it's hard to find. Actually, oh, they're together. So if this happens to you, this can be kind of irritating. I'm just going to select this. I didn't really mean to color that anyway. And I'm going to hit delete and then Command D to deselect. And now my leaf is back to its own layer. So I'm going to actually add this. And now I've got sort of an image that I'm liking so far. So really now it's going to be up to me to start filling in all of the details and information that need to be placed on the box. There's a logo that you need to do. There's a lot of text and a lot of information. I'm going to actually add a subheading. Remember, when you're working with fonts, you want to be aware of the fact that using too many fonts can be detrimental to your design. So keep it simple. And I need to write herbal tea. Now, obviously, this is too big, and I want to switch to a very opposite font now. I'm going to go with probably something sans serif and really basic. I'm thinking something like Futura. And if you have a hard time choosing fonts, there are a lot of online resources to help you match fonts or figure out what fonts look good together. And I want to switch my herbal tea to another color as well. I'm going to place it right underneath. And I believe this time I'm going to select it. And I'm going to switch the color right up here and go back into my greens. And just give it like a earthy green. So again, I may go back in and change some of these things, but right now I'm just sort of placing things in. The last thing I'm going to show you before I stop this tutorial is I'm going to use my custom shape tool. Sometimes you want some shapes in here. And this we've used quite a bit before. If you don't see all these choices, remember that there's a flyout menu up here and you can change it to all and it will give you all of these options in here. And what I'm looking for is just like a little frame, like a basic frame that I can put behind the text that I just entered. And of course I could find these a million different ways, but I think that last I checked there was sort of a fun little banner. I'm going to choose this one and I'm going to kind of use that as a frame for my herbal tea. Now notice this also comes in as a vector shape, which can be good or bad depending on how you're working, but I do want to switch it to a rasterized layer, and then I'm just going to pull it underneath, and now I've got that little banner to work with. Not sure I love it, but I can play with it a little bit. I can actually apply the same layer styles to this if I'd like to. I might even want to arc this. Notice if I go back to my T tool, it's going to bring up this symbol, which will give me some options in here to arc it just really gradually if I want. I didn't want anything too major. Just a little slight bend to it to see if that kind of helps balance it out. And then again, if I have this tool, I can just kind of shuffle that around. And I am well on my way to create my tea box. Please make sure you research tea first. That was part of the assignment so that you're having an understanding of tea brands and why tea sells and why it's important. Just kind of those marketing steps. And as I zoom out, which is important to do, I've noticed that this cool mint is hard to see, and I probably need to make some adjustments to my font and my design. Maybe something simple like adding a bar of color behind maybe this whole bottom section. I can do something like this, and perhaps I want to fill that area with another color that isn't conflicting so much with my white. So maybe I want to do a contrasting color, maybe even like a peach or aqua or yellow or taupe, something else. But again, a lot of this is just sort of trying things out, sampling, and seeing where you land. And don't give up when you're feeling like you're struggling. Just kind of keep working with it. And get some advice from people sitting around you who are also designing their tea box, so you can end up with a nice, solid, finished product. And good luck and have fun.